But yeah, we'll just wait and see. But anyway, so if you got your episode ready, so season 6, episode 11, and we'll go in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, I say something else doesn't mean to say, whilst this builds up. I was hearing there's a whole heap of videos that came out talking about not only season 6 part 2, but almost just like a huge retrospect on the show as a whole. And so sorry if I'm making noises. But yeah, just like really seeing which parts of the show really pay off, what really continues. And with this show being complete, it's just judging it all as a package now. And I think, the general viewpoint is that this is, yes, it is one of the best sequel things from an existing piece of media, but it still would have had a whole heap to improve, not only with a couple of areas, even what I spotted, but probably one too many characters looking back, and probably a bit more going on than it should. And I think cases where it kind of drifts away at some point, but it is still really solid and really inspiring. The whole heap of scenes are still like rewatching to this day. Anyway, let's actually talk about the episode itself. So we saw Kwon's funeral earlier. We'll probably go back to that, but not at the conclusion. But now we're at because I remember wondering what the consequences of the of the previous episode was, and I remember just saying all sorts of daft ideas by saying karate could be cancelled. And whilst it is it's definitely like very little in presence because of what's happened. I mean, everyone being put up by the Sakatake, and even Terry talking about how Kwon losing his life has been still consequential. It's ended that, and it's left a bitter taste in everyone's mouth. So and part of that consequence is Robbie being given very little choice on what to or how to move on. And even right here, Daniel's pretty much gone back to how it was. Yes, like he is more of a car salesman, but he's like literally scrapping a lot of the karate history. No bonsai trees, and he's probably still bothered about the Miyagi stuff. And Amanda right there, she does. I think she's like putting on that grim because she's like, oh he seems to be happy selling the cars and that, but Daniel's definitely put on some kind of facade. Definitely bothered about what happened with the tournament. I wonder which location this is. Did Braun not hear Terry come in? Must be really silent because he was a soldier after all. So he's the the punching one of the senseis in the previous part, definitely hints in him already being a fighter. Yep, and not the P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Showman, that's for sure. Probably might charge my phone actually. So even Terry right here is like thinking of a very reasonable narrative, which probably might have still gone ahead or included. But he seems to be probably the most keen person to get the tournament up and running. Because I thought he was getting kind of sidelined so that Chris could be more the forefront, but no, it looks like Terry's pretty much taken the spot of primary villain. He kind of already always was, because in season 4, for instance, Chris was getting hindered and looking back of how he treated Johnny, etc. But yeah, this third part definitely confirms Terry's place. Also, that bruise, that's a punch from Johnny in the previous part. Fully on board. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I feel like it'll be more of a council thing, but yeah, I suppose it is just wondering, if the dojos do want to come in or not. Yeah, he's presumably talking about Quan, when he mentioned embarrassment, which is a real shame because the dojo is rather talented. Oh yeah, something that made me wonder is that when the students were going through this move, and as you'll find out later on, he said, "Oh well, when Kim performed it, he called it perfect, but and then he, lost his life to it, and like maybe because of his old age, he probably couldn't take the damage as much, but." At the same time, was he teaching the students to take life through this method? Is this a life-taking approach, or is it just meant to be like extremely painful? Yeah, I'm not too sure. Although I think what he just said earlier is that I think he was, did he say earlier about how he you know, oh, I lost one of my students. Let's take one of theirs. So that was already an idea. That would have definitely made Sakataka even more, have a more of a rep, foul reputation if this method right here is does result in losing another student, well, at any other dojo. And also, Kreese, like there, despite him, trying to look tough, you can see how he really doesn't like the look of this. He's like become softer, most likely because of when Johnny saved him earlier. But just seeing all of those students get hurt like that as well. Students that Kreese has been around with, and he's probably not as keen on his sensei anymore. And yeah, Johnny's just letting Daniel know about Robbie's situation. And yeah, Johnny's still, I say work here because he still gets paid, right, or at least provided resources at this point by the LaRussos, because the new crib they've got, Johnny and Carmen, that was just given to them by the LaRussos, wasn't it? I said I just remembered. I've heard a medical update about Memory Master recently. Yeah, I hope she's doing all right. Okay, so now the call's been done, and so yeah, we have Terry's very keen to do it. Daniel's the most opposed to it. Johnny's also kind of on board, but then there's, I guess Kreese and Kim would have been onto it, but then their sensei were like, oh no, so yeah, so they're working to come back as well. So it is just Daniel not going ahead then, or not wanting to go ahead. So yeah, the Kreese's Cobra Kai at this point. So that seems to be all agreed, despite a couple of ideas. But Johnny and Terry, being the most keen, that creates another like minor parallel, between them, which yeah. Yeah, because Johnny's life is, definitely better compared to, season one, or like the end of season two, for instance. But he's in a spot he's not as keen on, so Yeah, he's still wearing he's got his rock t-shirt still. Yeah, I do need to look back on what other bands he was wearing. Oh, that was Metallica season 2, of course. Yeah, because of when Raymond pointed it out. And that's the yacht that was mentioned in the previous part, so we can assume that he's just living there, which is a rather cool idea. And Terry, yeah, I think the way Gunther, responded, being, just going, straight to what you were saying. Yeah, Terry picked it up as, oh, it was him, wasn't it? Because, although how would Terry know? Could it be knowing that the Miyagi stuff bothered Daniel, therefore he's the most likely to refuse? That's probably the best guess I have at this point. Yeah, imagine if Kreese's Cobra Kai at this point also, joined the Sakataka again. Well, I know Tori goes ahead, and we all know what happens with having a male captain in there as well. But imagine if they did go ahead. That means that Kreese would have won, and I guess they would have had the legacy instead. Although, as we find out at the end, Kim and even Chosen would, are probably happy enough with the position they're in. Teaching karate in a way that's not as severe compared to what the current sensei is doing. And yeah, this is pretty much the last episode of in this location with this dojo. I know it has that the ending part in the last episode, but this does help round up the lot, especially with Kim standing up against their grandfather and increase leaving and you not joining either. And yeah, he sets her on a very tricky task. And not only is it tricky because she has another idea for how to use this blade, who to use against, but even that will still be tricky. And yeah, she has to go through an obstacle. Yeah, is that allowed? Although I guess there could be cases where people are like, oh, I've heard this particular work is rather good, or I've heard about this person, or know about this person, hence why you probably can ask for, specific people in that manner. Although just imagine if my job were people probably would want my assistance, but that's really unlikely because it's just more of a team thing I'm a part of. And then this is pretty much I think that with the 4 main kids, or even 6 counting Hawk and Dimitri, they have their like one their last step. Not so well. Hawk and Dimitri more like help the others alongside having their own little moments of success, such as Dimitri getting back with Jasmine, so that's nice for him. And but yeah, the rest is it is having one final fight, but also the next path they go on is pretty much would be their final steps with Vindication, wouldn't it? Also, yeah, Daniel, I don't think he specified properly about the whole no bonsai things. And something else I thought about is that Terry could still be on the like obeying the like the speed limit. It's just a car with much more acceleration, I reckon. But if he's breaking speed limits, he'll probably like pay the police off or something. But yeah, this is actually quite an interesting way to interrogate someone, makes them kind of on edge in some way, and and it stops any battling as well. So yeah, it's a bit manic, but you can kind of see how it works. Terry's like got everything in control, like his control, and apparently he can drive well. So that's something. I think that's another thing between him and Johnny. How they like to drive. That's probably the last ever business card he's given. Considering what happens to him later. Yeah, so apparently his full name is Terence. Let's see. How long have I got left? I'm actually nearly heading for my bedtime, but I just fancy taking the opportunity. I can always postpone my alarm and hopefully wake up at a more reasonable time. Yeah, what about Karate Kid 3? Did he manage to hop from one location to the other? Like a bit like Jack Reacher. Unless I'm wrong. Yeah, Reacher's an awesome show. Definitely watch that. I could even actually no, I get a bit lost with crime shows, but Jack Reacher's still amazing. And I think Reese is still set on getting rid of Terry, because what happened later on, wasn't exactly planned, but I think it was like convenient to him. Although, um, so if what happened to him later on didn't happen, does that mean he continues, living an extremely under the radar life, or um, I'm, I, I'm a bit stuck. Sorry. Yeah, I just wonder what happened. If when last time we saw Terry, what he could have got thrown back into prison if he did try and um, if he did take Terry's life. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm just talking about all sorts of not the scenes, but yeah, this yeah, it's pretty much like a very nice last conversation between them, despite a couple of moments later on. And I think Kim at first must have been really reluctant for what she's been tasked to do, but I think after that conversation, I think that's what helps her think, maybe I should do, swap targets instead. And I think, the tournament has definitely affected everyone, but with Daniel, he's probably the most sad about it, because even right here, he's been reminded of Miyagi with what happened with Quan, and yeah, just must have took some kind of toll on them. And Amanda's been far more supportive, especially because Daniel does get to continue karate, and Amanda's really happy for him to do it, because I think they must have done some kind of balance in between karate and the card business eventually. I wondered how Johnny and Terry arranged to meet. Do they drive their cars and up to their lawn and to be like, oh, okay, let's just meet Daniel? I reckon that's the best idea, unless Terry crazily drove Johnny all the way there. I think that Terry, despite saying this, I think he's still, he's doing putting up a facade again, where he's like, oh, no pressure, but at the same time, you must do it. And also to quickly say, because I remember, being a bit stuck with that hospital scene, but, this definitely adds to it just provides more of an answer for what was, what, I mean, not only explains why he was at the hospital, but explains more on what was being said, because when the flashback comes along, because I thought that line was, more like a threat, but whilst it still could be, it, yeah, he's just like almost aggressively telling Johnny to make the most out of it. Yeah, once again, both Johnny and Dano have their guard up, not really believing, or well, just not falling into any of Terry's traps, and whilst they go ahead, um, they're still extremely cautious, which is definitely the right move for someone who is, good at tricking people. Yeah, absolutely. They're both one against him. Even Johnny was winning during the previous part, against Terry, thanks to the extra karate. Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, because despite the obstacles, one thing for sure is that both of them are absolutely fine with each other. Like, definitely, like, fine with one another. Also, what was that? Is that just a wooden bench and just one blanket? Like, it must be a warm area. Oh no, okay, there is. Hopefully, there is like a mattress. He's an old bloke after all. If he's not like lying down on a solid bit of wood, unless he's taught himself that. Yeah, even I was a bit fooled by the switcheroo being like, oh, she's gone for him instead. I never really thought of that. I've thought, I don't know what I was thinking of actually, but the best written shows are ones that often take, because it can be like a bit annoying where stories like go the predictable way, or a totally different event happens, but at the same time it wasn't accounted, or doesn't get accounted if something did work a certain way. But um, yeah, but yeah, I think just to quickly give an example, like for instance in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where everything goes wrong when they're at Madripoor, but that there wasn't quite a sense of, oh, what would have happened if it succeeded. There wasn't really, um, that right path wasn't quite acknowledged, but throughout this show, Cobra Kai, it does seem to give like some hints of what would have been the alternate path. For instance, at the end of season 2, I think if the brawl didn't happen, I think everyone would just been getting on with the education. Yeah, even Kreese's redemption, he's making some corrections, doing some apologies, but he still seems himself as yeah, he just calls himself the bad guy. So yeah, it's like a really nice twist on things, because normally redeemed characters are like, oh, no longer the villain, but with Kreese, it's he still thinks himself as flawed, or eventually comes to that realization. So yeah, I really like that kind of approach. Yeah, even Daniel's speech right there, just really adds to the unity of these specific characters. Like, there is a whole heap of of characters, of course, but this is just the main lot, especially with yeah. Right. Yeah, I'll be sleeping in 10 minutes. Early retirement, so could he be more into the dojo then? Hopefully Amanda can handle the business, unless I'm not sure. Also, not gonna lie, I kind of like the way Samantha delivers that line. Just makes it a bit more like bouncy and playful. Yeah, it's like a very nice way to add more hurt to her. Considering how the character gets criticised. Yeah, this is a rather good first step into part three. Yeah, because there is like some kind of sense of a lot of it rounding up, a lot of it being acknowledged, and yeah, really, and it does seem to be it's just like very reasonable with what happened last time. Because if you remember, I was just coming up with all sorts of ideas for what could have happened. I think I must have been thinking too far because I even wondered what about Axel, what happened then. But I think not only did Terry's idea of his story, the object was just there, as his way of twisting the narrative. I reckon that must have gone through. Therefore, Axel is, he won't get charged or anything. Because there are like cases where he does feel guilty for what happens to Quan, and I think that does bother his performance. But I think regarding Axel anyway, I think that is enough to make him more of an obstacle. Just considering what has to be rounded up and focused on. Like this episode specifically definitely rounds up. The Korean Cobra Kai. So yeah, we don't really see any of them again, other than a brief glimpse of Kim when Tracy comes to see her. And also, oh yeah, because even I was just wondering, what about Quan's family? But apparently he's been there all this time, so I reckon this dojo must have. Oh yeah, because do you remember like one of the senseis in season 5? You talk about he's been taught karate like his whole life. I wondered if like very young individuals go over to that dojo when they have no parents. Yeah, like is that a thing? Sorry, I felt like a Vincent. That makes my words a bit. Sorry. Um, but yeah, and it does, with the tournament back on, I guess that it does create questions of what does that mean going back to Barcelona or what? But thankfully, it's the following episodes. It still take place in the Valley, and oh yeah, because there are more senses were wondering how to set it up. What the next steps will be, and. And yeah, it is having all the sensei agree with something, but at the same time, it is Terry having a lot of the leverage already, and yeah, not to mention, I remember some people thinking that the likes of Axel and Zara, should have been introduced earlier. To which I do agree. Although if they were part of another place in the country, that would mean a whole different separate subplot. Because I remember in the first season of His Dark Materials, because you watch Lyra and I forgot the lad's name, but they have their own separate plots, just extremely distinct from one another. Like granted that there are like those from Lyra's universe coming up to the lad's very ordinary reality, so there is that kind of connection which Cobra Kai could have had the idea of, oh, we're about to go in Second Taiko, how exciting, could have had Axel and Zara have been a tad introduced maybe at the start of season 6 or perhaps even earlier. And I reckon something like that could have allowed more time to go more in depth into Axel and Zara, have how long have they been trained by Wolf, who else have they been trained by, and definitely, I can see that's like a positive improvement. I remember some people thinking about, imagine this whole show but edited together as like a like a film, and yeah, I just remember thinking, that could be yeah, it's extremely interesting if someone ever tried that, because I remember someone managing to make a film out of the Kenobi show and managing to add a whole heap of improvements, like adding more familiar score pieces, or having oh, what's her name, Reva, yes, to have her actually lose her life to the lightsaber instead of having her continue, because it's a lightsaber after all. So there were other fixes like that, alongside just presumably reducing a lot of the um, anything that probably made that story a bit too blatant in places. If there's any, I can't really think of any from the top of my head, but yeah, looking back, there's a whole heap of people in the community thinking, oh, well, this character probably should have been off. All those moments could have been cut as well, considering it didn't really lead anywhere. But yeah, if someone did do that one day, I would be interested. But at the same time, if I didn't know where to watch the film version of the Obi-Wan show, then I'm not sure how I'll be able to see this. Like, what about the Phantom edit? The one that started it all. Where would you watch that? Is that on YouTube? I'm not sure. I'd be kind of interested, but I don't know the Phantom Menace that well. Just trying to think what to say. I think there is that sense of finality. It's not straight into going all emotional. It is just a stage of placing all the cards correctly before going forward, and yeah, and it just seemed to do that. And yeah, and even the only fight scene is between Kim and the sensei, which I quite enjoyed. Just seeing how their skills play off with one another, and seeing the sensei actually fight as well. That's rather neat. And also just seeing the move from the scroll as well. It just goes to show that this is definitely an extremely vicious form of martial arts. It could even surpass the Iron Dragons in terms of viciousness, potential viciousness. Yeah. It's just trying to wonder like what else to say, what else has been achieved. But I think we've covered enough. Like I said, it is just like a really less for a solid starting point as far as I can see. And oh yeah, as I'm also be releasing a video ranking all of these episodes as well. And I've made like a start on it, but now I just need to place how I would put in these episodes. And considering this is more of a like a building up kind of episode, there's not any like huge moments other than Kim and the sensei fight against one another, um, and also the ending as well, where Daniel has the speech, like that. Yeah, those are definitely moments that stick in your head. And whilst there's other bits and bobs I like, such as Terry talking with Daniel and Johnny, about continuing the tournament. Those moments I do like, but as I said earlier, they're just decent building blocks as opposed to being climatic moments that tax as payoff. So this one doesn't really have that much, but I think it does position its cards far better compared to other like building up episodes. It's probably a bit quicker with it. This does act as like one of the more mundane episodes in part 3, because they're following 4. Oh boy, follow action very fast. So yeah, let's stop right there. I can't believe the show is nearly done. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Hello all, so this is the commentary for Cobra Kai Season 6, Episode 12. So I don't really have an intro, we'll jump right into it. So yeah, we'll go in 3, 2, 1, go. Hang on, go. Yeah, alright, now it's playing. Oh yeah, speed at 1.5 again. Alright, so oh yeah, so Gunther's at the meeting, and how long has it been since Barcelona? Was it a month or 2? I'm not sure. Also, right there, it could have looked like Tori was in the training as well, but it turns out not to be the case. So that's yet another consequence. There's some that are not keen on joining the fight, and I guess if Tori didn't join, that means Cobra Kai 2 would have been off the off the tournament, and someone would have had to face Zara instead. Sorry. So yeah, this is definitely the last time we'll see this meeting. It just they definitely needed the seniors needed to help her establish because if the tournament is continuing in the valley, then then some changes do need to be made, and it just become one thing to another. There's not everyone's agreeing, and I guess they probably, no, I can't say it adds tension because the drama focus isn't on them, but I guess is just to help set up how this tournament will be different, like carrying on the point system, and I suppose it is acknowledging some things like the tickets and that. Yeah. It was not going to be easy. Yeah, at least he does get a go with the mic later on, but but yeah, dark green thumbs. Yeah, looking at those gloves. Yes, Storage Wars is where the hop from one garage to the next, isn't it? Yeah, I was trying to think which show it was. Also, that dude right there, he's one of the residents in WandaVision, isn't he? And this is probably the last involvement of Kimiko. Yeah, I wonder what kind of problem. Would it be like a delayed phone bill, or could it be... Oh no, or maybe having a new phone, get it replaced? Yeah, it could be anything. So yeah, she's presumably found someone. Does that mean during like the start of part 2, Chosen just went up to some random house because how did he know that Kimiko lived there? I wish there was a bit more to that. Yeah, this Winnie is definitely probably like one of the last, probably the last cast addition to the show, or at least with speaking lines. And this might be the final part. There's still time where Johnny's like, "Oh, how about this?" And then they're like, "No, we live in the modern age." And not to mention, I think Johnny, because whilst Rosie, yeah, that's her name. Thank you, subtitles. Because while she does speak English a lot of the time, I think when she does speak Spanish, Johnny does seem to understand her, which means that Johnny has been definitely making more of an effort, with Carmen's family, which is quite nice of him. Yeah, them two are pretty much have resolved their friendship in the previous part, so now they're just helping with with Robbie later on. Their help didn't really pay off. Well, I guess a little bit, but yeah, because I remember some people getting disappointed that Port losed his position as like one of the main characters, which I can somewhat agree. Although with what the current state of the story looks like, how would I'm not sure. Although, part of Hawk was, resolving things with Dimitri. So I think that is like a good last part. It's just, I guess, like more involvement. Actually, what they could have done is have Hawk help Miguel and even like Dimitri as well. Maybe do the method later on again. Anyway, yeah, Tori's definitely, well, yeah, just not wanting to join the tournament at all, and some attempted to encourage her. So them two are definitely on like very good terms as well. Yeah, I would only go to like a tasting place if it was like ice cream flavors or um. What else do I like? Oh, I just like exploring like loads of like sweet flavors. So I'll probably go to something like that if it's that. But yeah, I'm not really a wine person. I'm more into cider and vodka Red Bull and that. Yeah, I'm more of like a more of a sweet fan. Anyway, so she's got my longs and she has made it clear that she's quite a spiritual person. I think my favourite part about her is when she lays down the cards and it does like even predict a couple of things. Um, but also, yeah, Chosen is a bit rude here. I think it's Kamika that's bothered him, and I think he does explain that later on. Although he only explains it as bad news, which could mean anything, but at least when he understands. And she doesn't seem to be too insulted either. And oh yeah, yeah, Amanda's also getting worried as well. That's almost like because she's just like the one of the definitive supporting cast. So yeah, if she has anything, it's just the idea of Sam going away, to which it's a bit last minute, but at least she's definitely more into karate, as she will see later on. Yeah, it's nice for Johnny to go to him for advice again because they haven't met since season 3 or something like that. So yeah, because whilst we don't see the rest of Johnny's mates, you need to go to him, who presumably is probably Johnny's best mate, which could also be applied in the films if I rewatched them again. Oh yeah, by the way, I think watching them as a commentary, I think that could be like a really cool idea. There has been a whole heap of like positive moments recently, especially with Carmen and Miguel. But I think that was also when other things were going on. So a bit back in '83, I think that's where he felt like even despite his mother dying and with the stepdad still being about then, I think he must have like felt invincible during 1983. Thanks for the answer. Yeah, I think that probably could apply that to maybe Johnny and his mates were around so many women at a point where they probably forgot, like like couldn't keep track of like Aramon's name. I think that gives him that impression, but at the same time, it's a long time ago, and they probably met this Tanya and Lorraine once. Yeah, I see. This would be earlier to say ahead of time, um, but yeah, with Axel changing his entire fighting style, that is definitely like a new twist. Or something that makes Axel unique in his opponent. Him being like rather tall is like one thing, and he's extremely trained. Almost like non-stop. But to switch fighter styles like that is like quite a feat. I wonder how they got hold of um, like Axel's algorithm, because that sounds like like recording a lot of Axel's fighting style, and then maybe it's like copied over. He's been recorded enough. I think they should have added that to get more of an accurate thing. But at the moment, I guess it could help Robbie build up some kind of confidence. Need to fight Axel again, even if Miguel is. Actually, no, we all know by the end that Miguel is better, regardless of mindset and that. Yeah, better than Axel, that's what I mean. So yeah, Robbie's already training with the best, so at this point he doesn't have anything to worry about, but of course he doesn't quite go that way. Yeah, like a lot of this facts may be true, and that's what's they're getting to her, but there is definitely ways around it, such as Sam, calling them during like night time or something, as said in the final episode. So yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah, it's a nice room to open up. DVR, I wonder what that is. I only recognise half of those. Okay, like 2/3 now. Yeah, I bet when people like watch this show again in like 40 years and they like see the names of those shows, like they're going to be like, oh god, what kind of society were we living in back then? Yeah, who knows what TV reality will be like in the future. TV reality? No, reality TV in the future. Yeah, I'm making a prediction that Love Island will be cancelled soon. The ratings and the viewings are really dropping. Anyway, we're not talking about that, we're talking about this. And so, yeah, we do get, I think it's another montage, and, it's Johnny taking the internet to heart, and, yeah, and the way he flinches, he's presumably never been, yeah, he's never been in smart clothes or measured, so, no wonder he's, flinching like that. Also, a cooking class, I wonder if how, must be like a one-off club he's done once or something. Yeah, because the showrunners of the show, they wondered about spin-off shows. But imagine if Hulk and Rudy had a show where they're like continue using this technology. Although I'm quite happy with how the story ended, so I personally wouldn't know how to do a spin-off of them too. Maybe when they go off to the oh no, they're going to different places of education, and yeah, there's still a whole heap of ideas. Yeah, just almost like anyone except the main cast. So yeah, we'll be really interested. And yeah, they're sparring confidently, them too. So that's something from the previous, no, from episode 3 of season 6, I think it was, yeah, where they can spar confidently, without yeah. Although they have no beef with one another, but and now she has this kind of mentality where feel like every time she fights, it always leads to something negative down the line. Imagine if the band was like, "Wait, hang on, is that her?" Yeah, the dinner might be cold, but I suppose you can microwave it. I'm personally one of those people who doesn't mind any like temperature of food. How I even enjoy cold pizza. Yeah, and that's presumably the last time we hear about Sid, in the show. Well, no, definitely his last involvement in the show. And it's like a really nice, act for him, to give Johnny a ring. Yeah. I say, the proposal and the wedding, or perhaps in the hospital, but, when they go back home, they'll be like, what is all of this? But I suppose they could probably keep it up, if having like a celebration party later on in the flat, because that's where gatherings will happen. Or how, I had a gathering when I had a new puppy. Anyway, yeah, these cars. I quite find these interesting. So, previous card could be like tied to Chosen's history. Although this card right here, at first it sounds tense, but I think when he's predicting, although if you're just looking at it from a story point, I think that possibly predicts Grease and Terry's death later on, because after all, Chosen somewhat knows them both, especially Terry. And then that's where Chosen kind of figures out this one for himself. Yeah, because even though Chosen and Kim, they haven't had a lot of moments with one another, but yeah, you can see why they would be happy go moving forward, because Chosen did help her during the massive brawl after all. Hey, that rhymed. Yeah. Also later on, Miguel was like, "Oh, you screwed the numbers," but even Johnny later on is like, "Screw the numbers." So yeah, they're both on the same wavelength as that. And not to mention, with the way Miguel sounds a bit like Johnny, I think that like foreshadows Miguel coming back to Cobra Kai, or come back to represent it, and also a sense of it's like the good side of Cobra Kai, coming back. Especially when Johnny gets the mantle again. But yeah, it was really, really nice to see both duos, these two rivals now, with how old they are. Yeah, it's just really nice to see them go ahead. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, because I've seen like some show, because shows like these always have the climactic final battle in the very last episode. But I remember seeing shows where they have like an episode where a lot of it's calm. The plot is essentially stopped, but there's like a moment of characters like discussing the events, which I found really interesting. But there's no like right or wrong way. It's just I was just wondering, what would you do with 15 episodes, and the way they've gone for it. Yeah, like there's like a couple of moments that probably would cut out and not much would be affected, but it's somewhat justified in those 15 episodes. Like each episode does have a purpose, but I feel like if you do trim it, I think it will probably go back to 10. Anyway, so yeah, they're helping each other out, which just further adds to them getting on. Yeah, because with where they go off to, I reckon they would like stay in touch and probably meet up every now and again. I can somewhat see that happening. Not that we would see it on screen, but it's like a presumption if that's about season one. Oh yeah, did they? What did one of them say about calling an Uber? there you go. They're already setting up some kind of plan. I think he was wondering about the emergency button just in case, something went wrong. I like that look of, being like, what's going on? Yeah, there's just so many lines that sound like Johnny, like when yeah, he has like so many unique quotes, I was just thinking about that monologue he had. But also, this is like a first, a proposal by marriage and a new kid in one room in like the span of like 30 minutes or less. So it's something I've never seen before. Whilst it would be likely, imagine if Karma said no, the violinist would be like, well, can we still get paid? But, it is written, all of this is like extremely nice. And, for him to come about, of course, he would be the one marrying them. Yeah, before the contractions start up again. Yeah. I remember, what was it, the show My Family, because the priest was like in a really tight schedule. He was like telling the bride and groom to like speak extremely quickly. Do you take this person to do this and this, like kind of speed? And yeah, the bride and groom somewhat nailed it, almost. And I think his schedule's fine. Oh yeah, even he shares like a similar kind of quotes to Johnny as well, using the word badass in that. But yeah, not only is it quite a nice monologue there, but yeah, it is just like one of those. It's not just for this moment. As we saw earlier, it's like referencing, how everyone's, um, like managing to resolve things and move on. The guy with flowers in the background, I wonder what that would mean. He's probably apologising to someone. Okay, so that with that's nice. Anyway, let's just anyway, them two are talking about when they first had Sam, because when you like watch Karate Kid 3 and uh, oh gosh, I forgot the main girl in the third film, but like that's like quite a moment, too, because them two would obviously get on. Then she would have introduced her sister Amanda to Daniel, and then years later they would have Sam and then Anthony together. So yeah, it's just a life going on. Just yeah, and for them to like look back on moments like that, when first having Sam, um, yeah, yeah, it's a good name to go for. Just like a really nice moment to just speak for itself. Yeah, this is yeah, I think. Oh yeah, I watched a video where it showcased all the episodes ranked in like an order. I think it's according to IMDb, and yeah, some of these later episodes in part three are some of the highest ranking ones, and I think. Well, not only is it like a really solid ending with rounding everything up, but it's also was just the whole full circle thing, and it gets back on track with what it used to primarily focus on. But not to mention, it is just quite emotional in places, and it just feels like very grown up as well because. Like the original Karate Kid films, they too have like their grown up moments, like from time to time. But I think with this show, with the it's not just about karate. It's um yeah, just life basics, I suppose. Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. Yeah, because I like it when when even if a product is like super cool, with karate or racing or jets, even if that's like the main premise, but to have these like really nice soft moments, yeah, it just adds a bit more variation and just yeah, it is just extremely nice. Um, although, shall I what? No, let's not watch that episode ranking video. Although interestingly enough, I think the very bottom one was one of the episodes in season 6, part 1. Yeah, which I think I remember ranking some of them like in the first half somewhere because they do well as build up, but I I believe that some of the best episodes is where they do the payoffs and they have like the more memorable moments. But once they've got that video out, yeah, you'll see. I think it's probably like an 8-hour video, and I thought, and also just comparing the lot to do repeat a lot of points, so I do apologise for that. Anyways, let's talk about the episode. So, yeah, this is the last like proper scene involving Chosen, and it's not my favourite ending. I feel like the note with Kimiko does it well enough, and I think with the cards when he was laying out, I feel like well, actually no, it does help confirm Chosen for um, it helps Chosen for what to do, especially going for Kim. And I feel like getting the letter from Kimiko earlier, I think that helps confirm where he stands with Kimiko, but and he can now definitely go for Kim because she seems to be keen on him too, especially when it comes to the final episode. So yeah, it does achieve a couple of bits and bobs, and therefore chosen to be a bit sour, only to like have a bit of fun talking about reality shows. Yeah, because he's one of those characters does like his TV, so he does kind of bring that from season 5 where he starts to become more on the forefront. So yeah, I think it's yeah rather good. Yeah, because what I also like is that in the final episode, Chosen helps train Johnny, and I probably would like to see a bit more of that, but it is self-explanatory and you can infer it, more from Chosen, even if it's not on screen. So yeah, they've had a baby Laura as well, and that does add more, motivation for Johnny later on, and yeah, definitely adds a bit more interesting context with the final episode, especially when Sensei Wolf tries to get to him, and um, um, and also yeah, Tori and Sam, they're definitely on good terms. Tori's going back to the tournament, and oh yeah, the board meeting to help to clarify some things. So yeah, just yeah, a lot of very good moments, and yeah, to see it once again, Johnny, you just researching what he comes across on the internet, and then um, and yeah, and yeah, because in season 2 he was just like when he would look through the internet, he was having like too much fun with it, but now tries to use it to help him out, and I suppose it still did. The dinner can be rewarmed and the decorations can stay up for a bit, because they could be, oh my god, what a celebration, that there must be like a week, celebrating, like I said, the proposal, the marriage, and the new kid, and I reckon the honeymoon would be like after, uh, quite a bit after, the show ended. I wonder where they would go to. Hello all, this is the commentary for season 6, episode 13 of Cobra Kai. And yeah, let's get going, shall we? And yeah, the episode up speed is at 1.5 once again, and then we'll go in 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry. Alright, so the tournament's now on, and I really like this intro. I kind of wished I saw this, or there was one in, Sekataiga was playing about, but I think, it's just, this, this episode, there's actual footage to work with, and we can somewhat assume that the camera recording was actually like the camera crew on set. So yeah, because I'm not normally the biggest fan where I like how it's the very stone at the bottom. It reminds me of that moment to Kevin and Stacey where they're like, "Is that it?" And then Nesta goes to explain how interviews sometimes work. I'm gonna hold a previous thought, but I think with Miyagi's foundations being explained, then that seems to do well. That ends up being enough for Daniel. If he wanted Miyagi to have some kind of legacy. Well, I guess he still can, because he still trains the students even if they don't partake in the tournament. I don't think the Mind Dragons will be going anywhere after the season. Well, most likely very little. Yeah. Apparently, Sensei Wolf's actor was in that modern Mortal Kombat film. I need to rewatch it. Yeah, I think a bit like Terry, she's like putting on a bit of a facade, because while she's like, we'll let's all get on and that, but she's like unhinged in reality. Yeah, I reckon they've tried to contact Grease, but he's not showing up. I don't think Grease even has a phone. And this is also like a very nice moment between them two, because they have been their own little duo for quite some time, almost as if I've talked about it before about how their sensei kind of has their main student, and Tori does seem to have the potential to be mostly tied to Grease throughout this whole season. Well, regarding students anyway, like the students in the show. Yeah, I like how he because he motivates her, but at the same time he's like, oh, yeah, because he said about if you don't want me in the corner, then fine. So yeah, he just seems to be very just like very accepting. Or like, well, accepting and understanding. Yeah, just something along those lines. Yeah, because also I really like seeing a softer side to him. At least in his final scene, he gets to fight Terry. So a lot of that sinister nature, he takes it all out on Terry instead, which feels very cool. Like, what a transition! Just to go through all of that fighting and to do that. And also, I was just wondering, because when I first saw that, I was thinking, wait, hang on, his weapon's going to be involved, but no, I reckon she just had some props and just wanted to show off, maybe exercise, maybe it's for a post where people are like, hey, can you just film this quickly for me? Yeah, but her followers might dip, when she loses. and yeah, we got an acknowledgement of Johnny saving Crease earlier, because it went by like rather quick during the brawl, but none of them ever tried to talk about it. Oh yeah, right there, yeah. Johnny just like twitched, because that's like a moment he really doesn't like reliving. Oh gosh, yeah. Imagine like if Johnny did win, and imagine if although Kreese wasn't too into the Sakataka when Terry first mentioned it, maybe they might have warmed up to it. He might have warmed up to it eventually, to make Cobra Kai bigger dojo, and even if Kreese did want to focus on that one dojo during the flashback, I think there would have been. I think he would have eventually been like, oh yeah, let's do more dojos. Yeah. Whilst I've only seen the first film twice, I vaguely remember him. And yeah, he's very good with the microphone. So now we have like 3 microphone users now. Although, I think Gunther was talk about how he's going to hold the mic during. Okay, no, I think he only helped introduce the, the tournament. Oh, I really like this scene as well because the way it's cut and shot, it really sells how like frustrated he is. Because at least I think he is. Actually, no, I don't think he's worried about losing because at this point Nine Dragons seem to be not nearly unbeatable, but yeah, I think he is just like really sad for what's happened to him. But yeah, have Robbie? Oh no, Robbie and Tori haven't. Did they say like they haven't spoken with one another? Oh yeah, so right there, Axel is again got distracted by Samantha there, and even Sensei Wolf noticed that. He probably might have seen it briefly when Axel, saved Samantha from the Cobra Kai at the time. And yeah, I think that's like, oh yeah, Axel right there. He's probably still feeling guilty about it. It just reminds me when my school had to do moments of silence, and we had like the other kids at class continuing their work. And that's where the teacher's like, after the silence, she was like, you know what, just don't do that again. When we sit in silence, you sit in silence. Yeah, that's like a good starting point. Although then he'll just have like a very cool speech for him later on. I think that, yeah, even those like sort of eye flickers from Axel, I think because the wolf is like, oh, you did this, you'll be like scaring everyone. But I think he probably doesn't like how he's responsible for what happened to Quan. It probably uses it a bit to motivate him, but I think it does affect his performance. Anyway, let's see what he manages to do. Yeah, a bit of a shot from the audience then. So yeah, we've got some of that paying off, and oh, and the frustration's there, and then, yeah, the way Sensei turns away. You're well not ashamed of him because they just started, but yeah. yeah, I reckon Axel has never like had the need for this other martial arts style until now. I suppose this is something that he probably might have done in the original tournament. I wonder if it is like a totally different style. I wonder what it was. And also, Wolf is like, well, I think like he might have got in trouble for smacking him like that, and surprised he wasn't. But um, also, Wolf is like so strict at a point where even him getting hit once is enough to like really disappoint him. Anyway, yeah, I really like this monologue for Daniel, because Daniel and Robbie didn't get to have a lot of time together like after season 4, because season 4 they had like a good couple of chats with one another, but to have that kind of moment between them, it's like a very good final moment between that dynamic as well. There's just like there's so many dynamics, and so yeah, he's. I'm just I woke up too early. It's not the show. Yeah, like this is. Oh, that was awesome. That's also like rather cool. She managed to spring from him. Oh, that was hard. How many spins was that? That was about 2 or 3. Yeah, there's a lot of grabbing, with Axel. That's something I suddenly noticed. Oh, Robbie's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go after you. It's funny as it is to see Amanda like that, but we haven't really seen a hint like that. Like she says, like she goes to football games and probably gets excited then. Although, but when watching the brawl, she was like, oh, why does this keep happening? So if anything, she should have had like, um, I think what I would have liked to see is Amanda being like, oh, the karate seems to lead in a lot of a lot of consequences, but at the same time she would also acknowledge how good it's done and for everyone, and still like as like a motivator for why Daniel should get back into the tournament like the other senseis. Oh, he's done that rather soon. Oh God. Oh, I could just like feel that. Oh gosh, I remember someone predicting that his back would have like been harmed, like Miguel's, which could have been like an interesting parallel, but I think that would have been too similar. And so I think Robbie having that kind of injury is like the closest equivalent. Yeah. I think Johnny was like minorly angry then, but at the same time, he's just like really worried about Robbie. And I think Terry right there is like trying to put on the face of, how fancy this come to be. But I think what happened with him earlier on his own, it seemed to, still like really bother him. Yeah, I still wonder why Daniel wasn't given the the tools of how to heal, with being in the first film, like that should have been something Miyagi would have taught. It's helps as like a good first aid equivalent almost. Yeah, but also earlier there was a lot of cameras, so you should have like looked back on it, and that should have probably led to a disqualification. Like, surely they wouldn't lead that just um for the referee to watch. Like, surely, because Robbie's still injured at the end of the day, so unless would they see it as Axel accidentally doing it, considering, oh, I don't know, it's like really precise with the way his leg was held though. Never mind. But yeah, Robbie may have not. Well, he at least if it wasn't for Axel's cheating, I think he would have probably won. But even if getting injured like that, he still looks back on at karate has done for him. And yeah, even if this show talks about karate in this way, I think that's just what get into any sport or any hobby can do. Like when look at Cool Runnings when I was watching it, and how that helps create like a grand sense of community in that, and how it helps them all improve as people. Yeah, although karate is the favourite one for me anyway, because martial arts is just awesome, isn't it? Sorry, that's a bit cringe of me. Sorry. So yeah, now there's like a whole heap of weight placed on Sam, and so you're looking at the show. Her last moments of fighting is helping to train Tori, which yeah, I think is just like a nice noble ending. And she has a couple of cool fight scenes during the brawl as well. So at least that's like partially good for her send off. So yeah, he is being honest here. Well, he does eventually find the answer, and an answer that it's just kind of reasonable. Well, granted, it does rely on Johnny winning in order for Terry and Wolf to not gain any more leverage. So we can probably, even if this is a dream, we can assume that Daniel probably does the basic methods to help his thinking. Yeah, with the smoke coming up and all of these people coming about, because if this was like still real, you could infer that it's Terry sending some goons or something. But Terry, obviously Terry has nothing to do with the skeleton costumes. It was just presumably Johnny's idea, wasn't it? Because he didn't know it, because I don't think Kreese did it either. It was probably like something Johnny's mates all agreed. And also you got Miyagi and Daniel to fight each other, which is like a very cool premise. To do it in a dream as well. And I think what I also will say is that firstly, with Miyagi not having any hits landed on him, we could definitely handle, like why he's potentially the best fighter in this whole universe. And oh yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, so because dreams are normally quite abstract, but in this I just felt like I don't know, because sometimes in dreams you can hear like all sorts from people, so because it almost feels like Miyagi came back in Daniel's dream to then pass on some advice, but I it still bite as a dream, I suppose. And whilst what Miyagi did, back at the Sakataka back then. Whilst I think we can infer that it's like an accident, and what Miyagi also says. Yeah, it's a very yeah, it's an unconventional answer, but it does have like a lot of wisdom to it. Yeah, it does continue to match with what we know about Miyagi-Do. Yeah, I remember watching like a couple of like Karate Kid clips like recently. I just remember thinking, like, oh, I always like keep thinking about the show and what it does for everyone. How much context it adds. So, yeah, it's this like this is how good the show is. It's just seamlessly part of the film. So you just can't go without the film. Like the films can't go without the show. It's almost. I think the films definitely fine as they are, but what the show does is like really put this on like a very high podium in terms of the consistency in a older fictional universe. Yeah, because I think this is the first time Grease sat down, but I think once he saw Johnny there, I think Grease was probably like struggling, with his emotions and probably had the need to leave, but then Johnny goes to see him, and yeah, like this is like a side to both of them we've never really seen before. Yeah, because after losing the '84 tournament, like did Grease like close the dojo? I think the third film answers that because I know he went roaming about and Terry helped to fake his death, um, but yeah, I think they did like close down the dojo and therefore all of the students had like no more karate almost. Anyway, yeah, this was like yeah, because I thought Grease was going to have like some kind of defeat from the other characters, but I think thanks to looking back on like season 3 and 4, I think there was already like hints of Grease getting like softer over time, and yeah, with presumably Grease's permission, Miguel is able to join. Like, sure, it is a bit. I like the use of the word underdog, yeah, because that definitely defines Miyagi-Do. And oh yeah, also very quickly, the yellow team there like has been up on the screen a couple of times, and yeah, we never see them. But also, did they like bring all of the other teams here as well? From across the world, simply just to watch. So Jaden Sensei's in this first season is one thing, but for the team to like suddenly have a new member, therefore like making the tournament longer. Yeah, it's quite a weird rule. Although if Chris has that permission, if there was no male captain anyway, and if they used to be Cobra Kai as well, there definitely would be evidence of it. Then there's like a lot of that inference, but I don't know. Just imagine in the Olympics if someone got injured, like a team of runners needed. Because is it like 4 runners from a country? I'm not sure. But imagine if one of them's got injured and they're like, oh no, we're down to 3 runners, we should be fine. But then one of them's like, oh, we found this runner. He too used to be a runner. Yeah, it's like that happening, to get the numbers back up. Like, granted, the Olympics would be far more formal, but yeah, it's just quite a stretch because when looking on the criticisms for the show, they talk about how um how the rules of the Psycho Taiko have seemed to change quite often, especially with the point system, and I can somewhat understand that. But yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, the point system and how good the performance is. Because otherwise, if it was just down to a team versus team, like in a very straightforward kind of manner, then yes, Miyagi-Do would have lost to that first game. Although I feel like that would have been quite short, because that's probably like halving all the teams to 1v1 each other, and then it'll be half again and half again. So yeah, maybe the point system just helps make it last longer, to which fair enough. And yeah, and a lot of people also at least talked about how Johnny and Chris reconciling with one another. Definitely like one of the best scenes of the whole show, because it's like part of the core of the show. Between them, and whilst they haven't got to share a lot of moments, I feel like that just makes up for the lot. It's a bit like Miguel. He was a tad sidelined. Other people have said it, to which I minorly agree with. But like him going back in the forefront, I just feel like it just makes up for all of that. It just really goes to show, because whilst Cobra Kai, probably went on for a bit too long, and yes, it did have a couple of missteps along the way, but it just goes to show that if you have like a really solid ending, it I think it just goes to show that it can just help fix whatever happens. It's like, for instance, if Lucasfilm decided to make another film based on the sequel trilogy, and episode 10, you could say, and like they don't make that one extremely solid, like plug up all of the plot holes in that Aramon's been pointing out. Like if like episode 10 like becomes like the best episode ever, then I feel like that would help that trilogy. I think with the current state of things, I don't think that's like, I think that would be extremely unlikely, because I think the best fictional universes like Star Wars can do is just slowly climb, and I don't know, because they're very about the current story. They don't really look back, but I reckon that's what they do need to do, because Andor has been the most successful thing recently, and that helps with, well, it does strengthen Rogue One, which is already quite solid. It's my personal favourite, and it does help expand on what other methods the Empire has, and it does kind of bring back their intimidation as well. So if they do, yeah, so I think that seems to be the right direction. These lower scale stories that, well, not only can help build up little things, but if they do, help like fix previous problems, especially like the sequel trilogy and the other shows, then yeah, I think it'll just go a long way. And yeah, just with Cobra Kai, like that, because I just remember keeping my expectations quite low, being like, oh, it will be rather good. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But it's just very impressed, and it's just really inspired me, because if, for instance, if my own stories were like struggling to hold up, I'm just going to do like a whole heap to be like, make sure they're like top notch. Yeah, like really, putting my story on a higher podium. So yeah. Anyway, we have a rematch between Robbie and Axel. Robbie would have most likely won in the end. It's good to see Robbie actually land a few hits. That was quite satisfying. And also, Johnny and Chris, did they talk at the exact same car park? I can believe that. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because it looked further away from the building, but I think it was. Yeah, sorry, I'm just yeah, I'm just running out of things to say. Yeah, just just some really nice moments overall with involving everyone. I don't think there's, well, yeah, the only fighting is between Sam and Tori, and yeah, the show can just have a lot of this momentum. Oh wait, no, hang on, there's Robbie retraining as well. So yeah, now he's got his confidence back. And whilst he couldn't land any hits on Axel, I think at this point you can, this is hope of, hopefully Robbie at least has some kind of chance. And I think if this invention is something that's accurate, then that just give everyone some hope. So yeah, I think we'll stop there, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Oh, my throat started to hurt. I think I'll stop right there. I really like the introductory TV. With all of the contestants, I think that was really cool. And not to mention, even it is reminiscent of season 1 and 4 with just fighting in the valley again. Just there's enough to make it stand out once again, which is rather good as well. Yeah, it's good to make all of those tournament fights distinct. We'll start right there, and I'll see you next time. Hello all, 5 recordings to go now. So yeah, we're on to part 3 of Cobra Kai. So it's been quite some time since I did my recording for season 6, episode 10. And by the way, once you've had the episode up, we'll have it at this what's it called? The speed at 1.5 again. It's just I've got really tight on time, especially when I've got a lot to say. Hello all, welcome to the second to last ever episode of Cobra Kai, the commentary. Yeah, season 6, episode 14. I don't know what to say at this point, but I'll be definitely at my most conclusive, in the following episode or video here. So let's jump right into it. So episode ready, and we'll go in 3, 2, 1. So strike last. That also has multiple meanings. So yeah, this is pretty much the girl's final fight. Most likely, you never know. He could come back in in the future, like Cobra Kai Return or a spin-off. But I don't know. I think we'll talk about ages away. Oh, yeah, this is sorry, another late night. So yeah, I think this is just simply exploring the valley, and they're both in the car, kind of reminiscent of season 1, but now they're in Yogi's car. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's quite an extensive scene, just showing a lot of the scenery. It kind of reminds me of in Whiplash, where it has the flickers of the city. Oh yeah, I guess it does create that wonder of where they're going, but yeah, they come here. So we only we last saw this in season 4, but now it's no, but yeah, it's come back into play. Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, because they're always going to be opposites, but they know how to get on. A lot of damage. That kind of reminds me of what's his name? That's a lot of damage. I saw this boat in half. God, I forgot his name. Anyway, name memes. Right. Yeah. It adds to that whole full circle thing, going back there, and I wonder whereabouts they're training in. But yeah, I really like the colouring. It's extremely It's like very grungy. Oh, that is. Oh God, he's. Oh. God, it's just really like seeing how he trains. Oh, but yeah, even Terry's spotted that. And you never know, maybe that's the reason why Axel loses in the end. There you go, it's very reminiscent of season 2, having them, shed the dojo. For trying to go back in that gear as well, it's just extremely cool. Yeah, because, if, like, for instance, Johnny did still stick with Miyagi-Do, that would have made the everyone be like, quite hanger-wise, the show's still called Cobra Kai, does that mean Troy would be the only one withholding the mantle? But no, they've, it is just going back to, like the original roots of the show, and yeah, it's yeah, seeing Terry have a go at fighting as well. Presumably Terry might be a better fighter than Wolf, or I don't know actually. Yeah, even seeing the baseball machine earlier just further adds to that full circle thing, because yeah, that came up in season 4. Yeah, I can always save the pizza. I do. Yeah, he does still get that payback, but that thankfully doesn't go in front of him. Yeah, sit on the pavement like that as well. Like, here, granted, the last time he did that was when Johnny was talking about, what happened in the first Karate film, but now it's, I guess it somewhat goes back to some of that theming, um, but yeah, just once again, it just, yeah, it's just like familiar territory, like sitting outside the dojo in some way. Yeah, I think Johnny's helped ease the pressure then. Oh yeah, does that move actually pay off for Tori? I swear it does. I guess we'll wait to see later, but yeah, it's really cool to pass on specific moves like that. This is probably the last time they kind of speak to one another. Oh, and Ishii gets a mention. Couple of years, so that means Yeah, because what was the time difference between season 5 and 6 again? Because I think season 1 to 3, 5 is like, um, is that like, is that a year or was that like 6 months? I'm not sure. But yeah, like the massive time gap, there's like a lot of preparation before the second Taco. Yeah, even Daniel and Tori haven't had a lot of exchanges either, but it's nice for him to squeeze in a few words for her. But she must have put her phone like safely in a locker or on the side, like by a bag or something. Oh yeah, there's a moment later on where Moon accidentally gets the letters wrong around. Yeah, there it is. It reminds me of a moment in my college where one person goes, "Hey, have you heard about the shoulder touch?" And he goes, like, just one off the shoulder. Kind of reminds me of that. Yeah, that's just a sound of a shoulder, I suppose. I probably would like to go back to see what is inside that card. But yeah, it goes back to the octopus thing again. Yay, let's go. Um, well, yeah, is this the point system slightly updated? I'm not sure. Yeah, not gonna lie, this is probably my favourite Tory fight. It is extremely satisfying. Oh, Tory's not bowing. Imagine that. Hey, did you see there's like social media bit of thingy and then only for it to get more followers? I guess it just goes to show that in social media sometimes people get an audience when they don't deserve it, especially when they do bad deeds or if they're just not good people in general. And Zara, she does have like a lot of personality, but she went, she gone for Robbie, during Barcelona, and she was just quite mean towards Tori as well. So yeah, it does make you question about that. Oh, that was hard. Okay. I think after the common plot hole in the first Karate Kid, I think they are like trying to be consistent. No back, no hitting backs, not the back of the head, no points off the mat, no points if blocked. Oh my gosh! Signature me once again. Oh, Tori, um, nearly went for Zara then. Hey, flip the script. This is the first time he says that to her, isn't it? And um, oh yeah, because they haven't really spoke much in I forgot about that look between them, the sensei then. Oh, there you go, good publicity. So, Tori has like that glitter gold in gold in like on her eyelids. That's actually really nice. It like suits her hair and then it matches with the gi as well. Oh, there we go. Really nice. Anyway, what was I going to say? Victoria and Robbie, I don't think they spoke much after the tournament ended, so I think this is them like reigniting their relationship. Well, definitely very good now. Oh wow, that was a bit of a tangle. No, there you go. Even Terry's like, what's going on? Oh yeah, there are like stunt doubles with those who flip. Well, some students anyway. Oh, oh, yes. Oh, that's cool. I need to like learn how to do the kicks like that. You know, the way you like, um, almost like twist yourself as you make a kick. Oh, oh, oh my gosh! If you could, that look like a chewed, like, Tic Tac or something, not a tooth. And that's like all back to, um, when Zara's like, "Oh, welcome to Barcelona," and then she says it back, but it's just as like more like unhinged, but satisfyingly so. Yeah, like there are like other characters who I do favour more than Tori, but this is definitely like one of my favourite Tori moments, probably my most favourite ever, and um, um, it's just like managing to root for her, and managing. No, that's not right. Like I'm just like extremely happy for her success because this show does make her the kind of character who's trying to work towards this success. And after having cheated at win during season 4, she definitely needed a much more significant success. Yeah, Terry's just like tried to be like actually, but yeah, this time yeah, Daniel's not getting hindered or annoyed, and if anything, then you'll almost get the upper hand here. You'd, as in you would, like when reading subtitles. He uses words against him. Oh, look at Terry. He's just like, no. I think for once he's just a bit lost. But, I think that's what happens where someone in your mind game no longer falls for you. Yeah, because I think Terry's also just like quite worried because Zara's just lost and then Axel has just been showing weakness from time to time. Yeah, even right here, it could have been like a moment of, oh no, this has just happened, but I think thanks to them to getting on well as a couple, I think they've learned not to get worried about those bits and bobs. Especially when Miguel was told about Axel trying to kiss Sam in the previous part. Um, yeah, like the way they like talk about it and like maturely, and Miguel recognizing that it's Axel's fault, not hers. So um, yeah, so I think that's what this is like attempted to carry through. And yeah, right here, well, not quite right there, but later on, I think Terry would have told, Wolf and also, just Wolf about Miguel's injury. Yeah, because after all, like, Chris would have told Terry, during early parts of the season 4, but not to mention Miguel's accident during um, the the season 4 tournament. Yeah, it's nice for Miguel to get to a position. Oh. Like these shots being like, no, what's going on? They're just like so shocked that Axel's getting hit. Although, in fairness, Axel is getting distracted because of what happened earlier, and is that kind of jealousy and embarrassment. Oh, bit of a continuity error. He was just shaking his head, and now Axel has his head straight up. Probably like a tiny passage of time. I reckon Axel could be like quite a good choice for like a spin-off series. Of almost like finding his way through another dojo, like another dojo abroad. I can somewhat see that happening, and Wolf could come back. I reckon something like that could be cool. Oh, oh my God, Axel is despite being really tall, he knows how to flip as well. That is, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Oh. Yeah, that's his signature move, almost like probably like signifies a non-defeated. I think that's the impression I got with the gesture Axel did earlier. Yeah, this is definitely a fan favorite Johnny monologue. Not only is it like very like representative of Miguel's entire journey, but um, there you go back to the numbers being nothing. Yeah, because whilst well, not to mention that's like a quite an interesting flashback to go for because it's not like the biggest scene of season 2, but um, it helps make season well because after all season 2 was definitely expanded more of Miguel's mindset. Yeah, that's probably my favourite Rosa moment. Oh, there you go, Axel's just like, wait, what? Why's the crowd liking him? Also, yeah, didn't really get to see much of Terry and Axel in the previous part, but we do get snippets here, so yeah, because Terry had like his sinister ways, but he was just mostly like straightforward with the students, but with Axel he's like extra strict. So yeah, there's a whole different dynamic. Oh, and that reaction from Sam there really just really adds to the worry. Yeah. But yeah, in on like YouTube and TikTok, like those videos where they're like montage quotes in that, or like an edited version of a monologue. Um, yeah, yeah, that's yeah Johnny's monologue. Before Miguel tries again, it's been quite popular, and yeah, you can see why. And I haven't always been the biggest fan of the intercuts between fights, but not only is there more time on the current fight, but it's just like little bits in between because I oh 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 Axel isn't like in a real dilemma because Oh, he's just exposed himself. Yeah. Pause the episode. And just had a call in between. So yeah, my remaining time on speed 1.5 is 13:14. That's the remainder time. Anyway, so yeah, let's resume from that point. All right. So yeah, it is just Miguel fighting, but of course, extremely well, extremely satisfying, and yeah, probably my favourite Miguel fight. Although I really like some of his fights in the previous part as well. Yeah, it's not just some individual moves; it's also in like a whole um, like patterns that he's been using, if you could call them that. And that's almost like a tornado kick, but just from the ground below. But also just to end that moment with him standing, because after all, it's not only one of my favourite Miguel and Johnny moments, but when I was doing an episode ranking, that episode was quite high, mainly because of that moment. And yeah, it just like adds to the like a whole new like emotional dimension, if that's even a term to say. To the fight. It just feels like everything's like all relaxed because Miguel's absolutely beating Axel, and yeah, it's just really well done. And like Johnny and Daniel, Miguel is now 2-time champ. Oh, he's walking away. I am curious where he goes, but I reckon it'll be like another dojo or something, like a chance to really build himself. Because just because you lost, it doesn't mean that your career's going to foil. That oh yeah, imagine if Miguel and Axel were going to rematch. That would have been like quite frustrating, not just in story terms, um, but in universe as well. But fight between senseis, now that is yeah, like what a like not just a very interesting twist, but it's an extremely cool premise because yeah, Karma's like the audience. Yes, stay away from her, Terry. Oh yeah, even I think Rose about right then was getting like a tad defensive. Imagine if like Laura grows up and was like, "Who is that man with the ponytail?" And so now we got a sensei of a similar age. That is another like cool idea, and also just to have that in the final um episode as well. Oh, is this the moment I'm thinking of? It is. Oh yeah, he's come back. And oh yeah, this is the scene that confirms that it was actually that goon who burnt down the furniture store, not Terry in season 5. Yeah, is this the oh yeah, there you go, that's the confirming. Cars on the edge. Okay. Although back then, um, I reckon Kreese um, like he must have like hid inside the boot of the boat almost. and then only to come on a platform. That's the best assumption. Oh, Kreese, I think he should have had he should have been facing Terry beforehand, otherwise he could have got you. I wonder what Kreese did to completely like make the guy's face bleed. Oh, okay. Yeah, we don't really see that, but he was sitting in the crowd after all. And just like the way he like casually picks it up. And I think Reese, kind of picks up his words because he's like, there you go. Yeah, because despite a mini brawl at the end of season 6, no, like in the previous part, well, now we've got like a proper fight. And some people have talked about how this is like probably like a tad over the top, but I don't know, it's just quite satisfying to get more of a fight that's focused on them. Because even with Terry's arm broken, he's improvising with his legs, and I think you can probably tell that Terry is still the better fighter, but Kreese does seem to have his ways, almost like playing at his own game. Yeah, this is like a cliche I'm not the biggest fan of, where they can like clearly see um, what they're trying to reach for, but maybe and the opponent becomes like so like keen on defeating at a point where just don't really see what the guy lying on the floor is trying to reach for. Um, so yeah. Oh yeah, let's just go back to the episode just in case. Yeah, sorry, that's a repeated word. Sorry. What was I saying? Yeah, so yeah, I think back then Terry was probably like trying to stare at was probably staring at Kreese's throat, or and I think also, of course, when you're fighting, your head always like shakes about, so like we can see clearly because the camera's still, but the characters are unlikely. So I think that's probably why Kreese was managing to reach for that cigar at the end. But yeah, that's the end for both of them, and I always had like kind of thought about Grease dying, mainly because of season 6 and also season 3, where Daniel has like my moment of being scary, and nearly, well, not so much in season 6, but in season 3 he nearly like performed some kind of a fatal strike. But yeah, I thought that was going to be like the payoff in the end, but I think oh, sorry, that's my tablet. But I think that was probably like a sign of Daniel having like a sense of rage that already exists, especially with Johnny and Daniel blending back in season 4, and Samantha always being around to stop him, even when, because Samantha only like calls him out, she doesn't tell him to stop, but her being there is enough to stop Daniel. So it's just almost like in those two occasions they stop Daniel from going too far. And yeah, so yeah, I think I think that's the intentions going for. But yeah, I do like that ending idea for Grease and Terry, to both die in a fight against one another, and in a proper cool fight as well, like a suitable ending, for the villains, and the way Grease like definitely defends Johnny, and even calling Johnny his triumph as well. It is it's quite endearing, because imagine if Terry's plan did work, that would have really set Johnny off balance, and with the Iron Dragons winning, that would have meant Terry gets to win, even if he doesn't get to live to see it almost. But yeah, as I'm watching this episode play, I'm just gonna try and see what was in that card Miguel written. And yeah, what did I say? Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, there's this video I came across where it says the Cobra Kai cast by everyone's first and last words, and with Terry's, his first line is hello and his last word is no. So the way it montaged into hello, no, I just remember that being quite funny, because there's a couple of other examples. There was that. One of the kids in season 4, one of the background kids, like one of Anthony's mates, and when he says his last word, it just gets thumped by Kenny in the library. It's just a bit like a comedic skit. I reckon someone could create like a comedic skit of, it's montage first and last quotes, and yeah, almost create like a parody of it. Anyway, off the silliness now, let's go on to the episode. So yeah, Miguel is won the second time. Tori finally gets a rather cool win, and Tori and Miguel, they're about their peak of their fighting talent, and they're overcome their own obstacles, and they get motivated by different ways. And there's some similarities, for instance, how the crowd seems to rooting for Cobra Kai and even booing Axel. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, because the crowd doesn't always interact. There were interactions of the crowd, in previous parts of the seasons, but yeah, it just feels more grand and involved this time. And and he's gone through familiar territory, just loads of flashbacks of Miguel and sitting on the curb. Yeah, it's just it's a really cool ending for his character, because when looking back, he he hasn't been the most forefront character, which is a tad of a shame, considering how much of a forefront he was in season 1 and 2, even 3, I would say. Although they had their own subplot, but that was the main characters doing their thing, and what Chris and Daniel were doing, that was just everything else going on, but did get a bit misbalanced throughout. But the flashbacks do really showcase what Miguel has learnt on the way, and it's just really cool fab stuff. Yeah, I'm almost trying to not repeat what everyone else is saying, especially when there's those Easter egg videos that also reveal hidden details from previous parts of the seasons. But yeah, regardless, Miguel is a very well written protagonist, and there's not granted, I'm not the biggest TV guru, but I can confidently say that in recent memory he's definitely a top notch protagonist. Despite being sidelined a couple of times, he's it's just really cool, and the way these final 5 episodes really put him back in the spotlight again, just helps him feel more appreciated by the show again. Is that the right way to say it? Or just getting the spot he deserves, and that final fight could be symbolic of that. And the card. What did the card say? About there, yeah. Even Hawk and Dimitri, they kind of had their I felt their proper ending was in the last episode, the way they're hey, let's meet each other despite going to different places. But now they just have a couple of smaller moments, smaller comedic moments, with Dimitri correcting Moon and found a card. And but not to mention the following episode, Dimitri has his own tiny subplot where he's in I don't know, in some kind of room with Jasmine, whether it was a cubicle or something. Nice that they made up, but just what a subplot. For Dimitri to come back and did we win? What does that remind me of? I remember that moment in SNG4, in one of the someone montages, whatever it was, one of the early ones, and it's just like an edited the moment where like Peach like flies up to the sky during the Mario 64 victory, and then it just cuts to another like Mario model or some kind, playing the game, and he's like, "Did I win?" It kind of partially reminds me of that. Yeah, I do watch SNG4. You haven't seen him. He's quite different to what he is. I don't. Yeah, it has a lot going for it, I suppose. But I think me and others can agree that like the 2010s was definitely peak SNG4. Yeah, if you go onto his most popular videos, I think that would reveal some of his best stuff. Definitely funny stuff like the Chomp stuff and the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, and I really like Gods and Retards as well. That was kind of funny at times. Yeah, the gods from GoldenEye 64. Anyway, YouTube advertisement over. Anyway, I found the card. What does it say? So it's a card from Sam Girl. Thank you for always having my back, glove. There are a lot of people inviting for today, but just between us, you're my favourite. Yeah, that's it was really nice, and it goes back to the Octopus theme again. Yeah, I really like the first stage, and especially the song that plays. And oh yeah, by the way, yeah, Daniel's final speech to Terry, you like, Daniel finally wins a mind game, like after saying Cobra Kai never dies, you can just see that Terry's just like, you know what, I'm not bothered. Terry looked a bit like Snape, in Harry Potter, because sometimes he like retains that stern look, and then he just will suddenly like walk away. I remember one moment in Half-Blood Prince where he does that, because after Harry's like message, will like message with a question mark, and then Snape just like looks in for a bit, and then he like turns away. It kind of reminds me of that almost. I could that be like another idea? Because I hear like all sorts of like criticisms, Harry Potter. Because there's like a lot of spells, and there's the time turner, and but at the same at the same time there are like some generally really cool moments. But I could like watch all 8 films and really keep track of like all the characters and the lore and the spells and how it adds up over time. And that could be like an idea. Anyway, so yeah, we'll stop right there. I'll become more conclusive in the following episode. By the way, Sensei's Party Senseis, that's probably like a subconscious thought I've had like once, like imagine them doing that, because it's always like the kids fighting these tournaments, but for that to happen, yeah, that's really cool. Because imagine if they did that in the 80s, Miyagi would just smacked like Kreese once, and Miyagi's like, there you go, quickest win. So, just imagine that happening. I haven't even drank. Anyway, let's just stop right there. Let's go on to the next episode. So yeah, see ya. Sorry, I was just trying to whistle that tune that appears later on in the episode. Yeah, I'm not sure what singing skills are like. So yeah, I just thought to do like some kind of like mini thing, to represent this final episode of Cobra Kai. Like it's all led to this. But yeah, not just like the show, but I guess my commentary as well, because as I've mentioned, like from time to time, despite some ideas, like possible ideas in future. This is definitively like a end of an era, before seeing, where my life goes, because I feel like this year is going to be, I feel like this year is just where I'm going to totally find myself, what I want to do, during my spare time, if it's this, if it's going to be in the novels, and, seeing if there are bits and bobs progress, like my current work and job and that. Anyway, let's not go too personal. But yeah, let's go on to let's just watch this final episode. Yeah, let's just get on with it, shall we? So yeah, let's go in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh yeah, 1.5 speed again. By the way. Yeah, it does make these shorter, and I guess that is like a good thing, because I think there's been times where I do ramble for too long, and I think in past moments I was like, oh gosh, what else to say, what else do I pick out, because I was like kind of hoping to like analyse every single line, but that's going to be extremely like chunky, and that for the like too chunky for a lot of viewers, I can imagine. Anyway, so yeah, I really like this moment. So yeah, 2017 is set. I think it's set a year before the show started, wasn't it? And yeah, Johnny's just like at a proper low point. Like one out of any, and I think we can see that this is probably his worst moments, because I think at this point he he keeps going around in circles. He keeps getting thrown in prison. He keeps having a beef with everyone, because granted, he was like, they had like tough moments throughout the show itself, after episode 1, but at least there was still things going on for him, still hope. Even at the end of season 2, Daniel was like, well, I'm here now, let's go and find Robbie. So at least there's that. But right here, he's he's like really got nothing. But obviously that will completely turn around. Oh yeah, there is a minor yeah, but was like the wrong date on the grave, because Johnny like mentioned a different date in season 2 for when Robbie was born, and not to mention did his mum die in the same time Robbie was born? Something like that, I'm not sure. Oh, and I reckon Johnny was thinking about that when looking at his photos. And he gets to have a nice moment with his brand new daughter here. He is generally worried, even right here, well, later on in a bit. That's the flashbacks of Wolf completely owning him. And I think Wolf was really getting to Daniel as well. Oh, there you go, this is where Chosen, like, helps out, with the sparring. Oh, yeah, actually, because if you remember in season 6, part 1, I was like disappointed with Johnny and Chosen not really having a lot of what would how would Johnny and Chosen how would their skills how would their skills go with one another. And but yeah, we do kind of see that despite the sporadic nature. Yeah, I think this is just like another obstacle, because Johnny all this time has always felt like he's invincible, especially with the rage he has. But he does decide to, I guess, not strike first, and yeah, it does like really pay off in the end. I think this is where Johnny's like admitting about how worried he is against Sensei Wolf. Yeah, because even if Wolf kind of came in later on, he does, because not an easy, quite a powerful opponent, because Chris and Terry, at least they were like older, and Johnny have learned more methods over time, which made Chris and Terry easy for him. But with Wolf, however, he's almost like leagues ahead for whatever background in fighting he's had. But yeah, even if Wolf hasn't been like the most established threat, he's only been introduced midway in season 6. Yeah, I think it's like a really good fun obstacle, really testing Johnny with everything. It just makes you wonder, what other finale ideas could there be? You could have had like one where, like another fight against Terry, and maybe Wolf could have been there as well. Maybe the last episode could have been the end of the student tournament. Maybe Johnny like fights to defend his daughter, but I feel like all of that is probably a bit over the top again, especially when people were like, oh no, season 5 was like going to way too far with its finale at points. And I partially agree, but there's like moments in the season 5 finale I like. And but yeah, I almost feel like this is like the right way, because Sensei's fighting in the tournament, it's a very neat original idea, because it's almost like the coaches fighting. Yeah, it's quite interesting to go for Rocky references, but I suppose it is another nostalgic thing that consists of fighting. Alright, yeah, I've just returned and just started to make myself a drink. I'll be talking for a long time. And yeah, this is definitely like part of their ending. Their stories are pretty much done, so we are like at that kind of ending territory. Where they're like looking back on everything and also seeing what they achieved. And really, this is where the whole necklace thing was clarified, which is quite nice. Once again, it's what I was talking about a couple of videos ago, where the mentor was, despite what happened at the Seka Taikai, Miyagi was still a good person, and even the Nexus thing was a misunderstanding. Sorry. So the mum knew the story all along. Why was... Wait, hang on, if she knew all this time, mate, unless, I guess, it is just withholding, that story, because, if she's held the necklace all this time, but, I don't know, I just felt like she would have said something like that, way earlier. Oh well, still really nice ending. What a nickname. Oh yeah, even them two have those two have achieved their their goals as well. Yeah, because you normally I don't know, I think it is just like a really nice playment, because I think it just adds to the hopeful nature of this episode, despite Johnny having one more thing to overcome. Also with Daniel as well, trying to help him out. Yeah, that's really nice for them too. Absolutely. Oh, did the guy like had to go in A&E or something after getting kicked like that? Well, I suppose he needed to be checked. So yeah, despite imagine if there was like a moment of, oh, Gunfrey, you need to apologise to him and give him the mic, and he'd be like, all right. It could have been a moment like that, but I don't know. I think that's just really nice enough. Anyway, all billion of them. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow, Dimitri's gone like all the way. But yeah, it's nice. They've made up. So hang on. Assuming like well, some of the things in real time, so it's almost like an hour later, and Dimitri's in there. Oh, I know, he probably gets changed in his gear afterwards. Also, considering what happened in '84, even if the Loki thing didn't go anywhere, I think they should have kept the opponents in different spots. I really like that necklace Wolf is wearing. I wonder what the meaning of it is. That reminds me, just very quickly, before I left my previous job, one of my former colleagues, she gave me a red bracelet, and um, because she was from Lithuania, and she said it means like protection and that. So yeah, it was like a really nice gift. It's just the colour red thing that's reminded me. Yeah, very fun story. Anyway, let's just continue but going back to this. But anyway, so yeah, Wolf is like really trying to get to him, using those words. Yeah, because Johnny's last significant failure in the dojo, like really got him, and so he's just worried about going into that cycle again. And oh gosh, I would be after those who ever bully my daughter. Yeah, like that's unfair. They're not even fighting. Gosh, yeah, Greece was like a different type of insecurity, that was just like between mentor and student, but this is like a super OP opponent. Although he's really glad he got the mic. So I don't know about the guy on the right, just trying to figure out where he was from, but the left is definitely the dude who we've seen every now and again, with the items and that, they had like a pretty good moment of connecting in season 5. Oh, actually, no, it came out to start of season 6. So I probably would have liked to see other like past characters going to come around to watch from the bar, but I think a lot of the people weren't available. So it would have been a bit of a, bit of a scramble to try and get a hold of everyone. But to go for like a resident to kind of knew Johnny a bit more than the others. So it's a rather good choice, and it also just adds to the to like the audience almost. Yeah, quite a first actually. Yeah, we never really see Johnny fight in this game, but we do now that it's fab. And yeah, they do suit. Yeah, all of that. Yeah, it's fab. There you go. That's the trailer shot. A Oh yeah, by the way, when Wolf was like, "Where's Terry?" I would have liked. I think I and others did want a moment of, Terry and Chris have been, found, out the sea. But I think that's something that we can kind of infer, and but I don't know. I think I just would have liked that kind of closure. You never know. There could be like something in the new Karate Kid film or another like spin off somewhere. But I don't know. At the same time, Johnny and Kreese are finally reconnected, and Kreese saved him. Okay, yeah, this fight has me on edge again. The dude then says, "I was in Mortal Kombat." Even despite me going behind him, Chosen Den will see that something's wrong. All that taunting as well. Because I think that's one similarity between Wolf and Terry. They like to like mess around with their opponents. Because if you remember in season 4, Terry was like, "Woohoo, let's go!" So it's just kind of that again. But yeah, but like Wolf is just like fighting without any kind of effort. Even though yeah, Johnny did step back, so I feel like that's following some kind of device. Oh, yeah, that's something that kind of came back. It's just like so blasé. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I would have actually liked to see more of him because he's like really intimidating. Oh, that's another. I think it's more exploring more of um, how a lot of things weren't allowed. Oh no, that's not very reassuring. Oh God. Yeah, and I think Chosen has like a really this definitely like makes Chosen's role a bit more purposeful here. Yeah, because I kind of forgot what his role was like. Well, to do that kind of motivator here. Yeah, it's like very good of Chosen to do. Because Johnny and Chosen haven't like spent the most time together, but they've definitely been through all sorts together. And then I really like it's like really cool to see Daniel like trying to use almost like the Cobra Kai in him to motivate Johnny. Yeah, I say because whilst they have those really helpful chats. Wolf, on the other hand, I just wonder what he's doing during his lifetime. I bet he's like, "Hey guys, do you see this? I'm totally like winning this fight, aren't I?" Oh, there you go. Even Wolf is like almost like getting too overconfident. Even he's just like, "Wait, what?" Because it's presumably his last hit. Oh, there you go. The crowd is like cheering for Johnny. After all, he represents the Valley. Even the way Wolf like throws some of his punches, they're a bit angular in the way. That's yeah. Oh, oh yeah, it's a bit like a boxing match, yeah, where you just end up like gripping each other. You just almost don't know what to do yourself. It's like a very weird mindset you nearly get. Oh, okay, that doesn't count as well. That's really cool. Yeah, I think like Johnny in the forefront fight, and I felt like that has had like a tiny dip after season 3, but because he lost to Wolf, he lost to Terry, he was nearly losing to the five senseis, but just once again, this show, like proves that oh um I think they were a bit unsure then. Um, with Johnny being like, oh, I'm annoyed as well. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to swear. But yeah, the way he takes on Daniel's advice. Oh, oh yeah, he's nearly matching the pose, but yeah, he looks back very quickly. Oh, but yeah, even Wolf right there, he's not moving the cage, so it would have most likely be like an illegal hit or something. Oh, there he goes, taking nice and steady, and Daniel's like, yes. Oh, I felt like a totally different person today with commentaries. Oh, nice. Um, although that almost like reminded me of a Back fist are the best. I love back fist. They're my favourite punches. And he won. Yay. Um. Anyway. I just felt like like Axel misbalanced Quan, which led to his defeat. I feel like Johnny doing that to Wolf kind of represents that. Oh. he checks his leggings as well, and yeah, there will be recordings of it anyway. But Dimitri and Johnny aren't that close, so I know I personally would have been like, oh no, Deck didn't get to see the real thing. But Dimitri was like making up with Jasmine, then I suppose you know, is like the wrong head thinking kind of thing. Sorry, that's like really gross of me to say. Sorry. Sorry, I don't like being crude. Anyway, let's celebrate Johnny's victory. And one of those kids managed to lift him up. And then even I knew this was a rock reference as well, because I've seen that scene. It's quite nice. I need to see those films, and I think the Creed ones are fine, aren't they? There's not a lot of fans, but I still want to see how they go, because I remember there's like an interesting scene between Stallone and Lundgren as well. There you go. Yeah, happily passing the mic back on. So yeah, the good guys have won all the trophies. Tori, Miguel, and now Johnny. Have they got his name on already? No. Oh yeah, they're sharing the victory. Yeah, just goes to show two Dojos with one. Hey. Yeah, because season one, did it looked like Johnny was getting his success, but with him actually doing the fighting, it just feels like a well-earned victory after losing in '84, and Daniel all this time was like trying to support him. So they've got the house, which is really nice, and by the way, Carmen's flat, that bump's gone. She must have like really burnt it off or something. But I don't know how things like that work. Oh, some defensive tools, I presume. Not a bad idea. What a number plate. Yeah, so they may be doing commercials right here, but I'm sure they'll be going on to many other bits and bobs. And now Kim's training in the dojo, a bit more. It just seems a bit more calming, like how lit up it is. Josie's gone with her as well. Yeah, really nice. And yeah, then everyone in the valley like sees Johnny right here. He's like, "Oh, he's in the valley. I want to be trained by him." Yeah, and they're back here again, and I think there could have been like a moment where Johnny's like, "Oh no, I think does he have a few words to say to his mum?" No, it speaks for itself, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. His mum would be very proud. Yeah, they two are definitely made up in like season 5 and that. Yeah, I think that's like enough to really solidify them as like a good brother and sister. Yeah, he knows Okinawa is a nice place. God, all of this is like getting to me as well. It kind of reminds me of. Why is this like reminding me of like the end of my university? There was like no celebration party or hardly. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a whole heap of just stories. I want to tell. What did like each last day of my education look like? Yeah. You know what? I think that would be like really cool videos to do actually. Anyway, yeah, this is like the last time where we get to see the Russo family in full, and it's like a big step for her, and I just felt like season 6 has helped her, become more likable and that. Well, because I've always liked her, but it is just I just hope that for those who were critical of Samantha, I just hope that they see some kind of improvement. I just suddenly noticed I've got these weird lines on the edge of my screen. What's going on here? Is this like Netflix on my tablet acting up? I'm not sure. Anyway, Octopus Necklace, how nice. Another reference to season 5. I like all of these seasons getting referenced. I feel like season 3 and 4 were probably like referenced the least like throughout this season 6 thing, but yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, but like some of them parents always trying to go and train adults as well. Yeah, because I thought we were going to see the last of Stingray earlier on. It felt like a super landing, but I suppose he gets like a comedic one, and at least Johnny has contingencies. Like letting the others know what they're in for, and he gets to keep the car as well. So he's almost like an extension for Johnny. Yeah, nice idea. There you go. We can assume it's like the following day. There's a whole heap of new students, and yeah, Johnny's definitely going to be presumably loaded in the future with how much he wants to train, and he'll train far consistently as well. Kreese must have been having like was his dojo like about less than 10 years, or was that like the original run? And then and when he talks about the 3 main lines and what they mean, it's there's like exploring other meanings. And Daniel may have considered stopping karate, as he said at the start of season 6, but no, he just decides to continue, and just continuing the mix of styles. But instead of, because I think season 4 and 5 and also early parts of 6, there were like, let's try and blend them together, but whilst they are still blending, it's like teaching them in their own realms, because at the end of season 6 part 1, whilst it was funny with Johnny trying to do his own interpretation of Miyagi-Do, I think looking back it just proves that, oh hang on, tablet's nearly out, I'll be back. I forgot what I was going to say. Well, there you go, yeah, Johnny's still maintaining that mean demeanour, which you do have to be stern, I suppose. Probably not that far, but it's what suits him. Oh yeah, did his black gate always have the logo at the back? Just trying to recall. Not to mention, Johnny's made a couple of other adjustments. The board, the bag, and the bench as well. So I think his I think you can see the trophy at the back corner there, and I think it's just going to show that Johnny's earning is like really paying off, making the dojo nice and decent. And like a really nice ending scene, just this is just what their life is going to be like now, discussing the sensei stuff, and oh gosh, don't get me talking about money. I get all confused. But yeah, they're like in really very good spots. And the fly thing later on, it just represents them really well. They got on despite being totally different personalities, and Yeah, I personally don't mind the flashbacks, because I reckon a lot of people won't bother watching these films, which is a shame. Um, and I guess it acts like a reminder. Um, but yeah, I think it's just some stories in films like to run on flashbacks as like a storytelling tool. A bit like I think I've already, but I think I mentioned it before. In Harry Potter, the final Order of the Phoenix. That had like more emphasis with the flashbacks. Um, yeah, compared to the other films. Well, actually, no, the last one also had like a lot of flashbacks as well, because it was just having that moment of looking back. But Cobra Kai always kind of had that approach. Um, yeah, because people like I think some people have kind of accused of being member berries, but Cobra Kai at least tries to build up its own foundation with what's currently on, so that's what helps like makes it more of a pass, because the flashbacks are like there to almost like assist and remind and probably make some kind of connections and parallels as well, such as Miguel and the how much he's learned. That's where flashbacks are used in all sorts of ways. But yeah, that's it, the end of Cobra Kai. And yeah, I've been looking back. I was at uni where I was watching this show and then going up to my first job. Now I'm on my second one that I'm presumably going to be within for a long time. So yeah, it just reminds me of almost like early adulthood. Adulthood rather. Sorry, I just felt like I've switched an accent there. Um, um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, because when I just remember when first turning 18 or 19, I just remember thinking, I think it's just because I didn't really like share a lot of experiences, that some people do. Like going out partying and that. Yeah, I never really had that. I think I was just too much of a workaholic, just trying to work on education and that. But yeah, regardless, I do feel like I really like stepping into adulthood now, and just trying to find myself along the way, and yeah, and I think this show does. Um, I think it does a lot out with that, because yeah, especially recently, in times where I felt like really down and like a lot of my own history like gets me down a bit. There's like a lot of moments from the show I like rewatch, especially like some of the fight scenes, and it just helps give me that inspiration back, because I like writing my own stories, and I'm trying to turn my moments in life into like some kind of inspiration for the stories as well. It's like a coping mechanism almost. But yeah, there is like a whole heap of media I do get inspired by. But yeah, this one does. It's like a nice little gem, because sometimes I do like struggle to get invested in things that are like extremely popular. Like, because I really like Marvel and Star Wars, but um, and yeah, despite a couple of like really nice memories for me, it is liked by massive communities, which makes it like overly shared. But with Cobra Kai, it's a bit like under the radar, so it has that moment of me appreciating it more. Not gonna lie, I'm like the biggest ABBA fan, and I don't think there's anyone else in my generation, anyone in their early 20s who likes ABBA as much as I do. I could be wrong, but I just haven't heard many people have that kind of investment in ABBA as I do. I know like nearly all the trivia. It's evident by my ranking videos, which have been up for quite some time. But yeah, I think it's just like my little love letter for the show, of how much it has inspired me in that. And yeah, definitely one of my favourite stories out there, because there's a lot of stories that I really like, on a personal level. I really like the Subspace Emissary and Super Smash Brothers. Done a commentary for that, and there's Cool Runnings, and there's a couple of Stars and a couple of Marvel I like, and Maverick is also fantastic. Every that never gets old, and There's like in the Imitation Game, that one is like quite a personal film to me as well. Um, yeah, a very thought-provoking film. Um, so yeah, Cobra Kai, yeah, definitely helps fit among that. And yeah, Johnny, he's definitely like the kind of guy that a lot of people can sympathise with, and a lot of the other characters as well. They all have like these low points, and they have like their successes, and yeah, the good guys anyway, or for those who later become good guys, they do have their obstacles and their severe low points, but then they eventually go on top eventually, in the end. And yeah, that's definitely one of their big themes that goes throughout. And despite like being a bit overstuffed and a couple of like minor plot holes I pointed out every once in a while, but it's definitely like an extremely strong through line. And yeah, and now we've got Cobra Kai at full package. Like, granted, there is like the new film and potential spin-offs that will like add to that universe, but the Cobra Kai story is definitely like it almost like um I think it like adds like soul to the universe, because if the trilogy is almost like the heart and the bones of it, Cobra Kai just inserts like so much soul at a point where yeah, the because I said before about how when I watch the films, I do just keep looking back on the show and how much like how seamlessly it seems to connect. And yeah, it's just extremely cool when that happens, because when you like, because it's just like Top Gun Maverick and Beverly Hills Cop 4, and even with Star Wars, Rogue One and Andor, they just feel extremely fitting with the universe it comes from. And it's just I and others are just waiting for more of that to happen. I don't know how many old franchises there are to like potentially make sequels out of, but I hope when we get new ones, it'll be a similar approach to this, or the current ones can make a good turnaround, because the new Ghostbusters films, they are, far as I've seen, they're kind of going back into more familiar territory. And whilst I don't really know the perception, but at least it looks like it's going in the right direction. It's trying to be respectful and like try and appeal to the fans in that. Um, But yeah, and I remember some people, were talking about. There's a video I haven't seen yet about how there will never be like another Cobra Kai equivalent again, and I can see why people might make this statement. Like, this is definitely a standout show. A show that takes place after films are really added to it. I'm sure it will happen again in future. Yeah, because yeah, you do have like these massive assumptions, and you're just not sure whether it's going to be the case or not. Because my all-time favorite album is ABBA Voyage, and it's just I really like how like timeless it feels, and how much it like stands out amongst the music of what would have been like some of the last moments of the 2010s. And but yeah, it's just because other than the Beatles' last song, which also had that kind of timeless feel as well, I'm just like wondering, other than maybe like a couple of like modern artists, maybe like take some inspiration and carrying that kind of thing over. But at the same time, with what music looks like now, are we going to get like another Abbey Void equivalent, where we hear a whole heap of complex chords and the mixture of proper instruments and electronic music also being added like at suitable moments, and songs that really feel not only timeless, but every time you listen to it you get to find new things about them. And that's why, like, yes, I have listened to Abbey Void like loads of times, and I do try and cherish it and listen to the song sparingly, but it has that that timeless feel, and you just feel like you can go back to it. Yeah, I just really hope there's like another old artist, whether old and new, can create that feeling again, but only time will tell. Um, yeah, whether we're going to get things like that or not, because I know film is it's not in a great state at the moment. With 2020, we're on into a new year after 2 years in a row of a whole heap of box office bombs, at a point where it just seems to be unfortunately commonplace. I hope that really turns around, and I think it will, because you can't really go into much of a low point. I think a really bad low point in film would be if like Hollywood gets like shut down and everyone's making independent films, and then eventually there'll be like a new Hollywood equivalent being like, hey, we made all of these independent films, and all of them managed to go stronger, and then maybe like the old stuff we used to like, it's like nice and low budget at first and then gradually gets bigger again. I feel like that could happen, but I think at the same time, if Marvel and even Star Wars are taking like some moments to slow down, then maybe that's like a good step in the right direction. But once again, yeah, only time will tell with that one. Oh yeah, by the way, just going back to this specific episode I'm meant to be talking about. Yeah, I was just the way Wolf like bows before he leaves. I know, I just suddenly thought about it. Um, yeah, I guess that just means that it's like his way of ending the fight, and he still left in frustration. Yeah, because he can't exactly go for Johnny then either, because I think he was getting a bit too, having people a crowd around him. So yeah, I don't think Wolf would have wanted to fight through them to get to him. But yeah, with Terry not being around to do his steps, I think Wolf's in a bit of money trouble. But you never know, he might like restart a dojo and actually be nicer. That's probably still showcase some kind of success. Well, if a spin-off show answers that, then cool. But if not, it's just like a up in the air interpretation. I remember some people saying the Wolf is a bit like, what Johnny could have been like if he had nothing, because Sensei Wolf, as far as we can recall, he's not married, he doesn't have any kids, and he's extremely strict towards the students. So maybe some people, could it be that if Johnny did continue in Cobra Kai with Kreese, would have Johnny continue to be like all about karate and not have like any time for family and that? Or he might have. I'm not sure. That is like quite a different what if scenario. But Wolf was also in financial trouble as well, and so was Johnny kind of. But Johnny wasn't doing karate either. So I guess those kind of links between those two characters. But just trying to think what Wolf kind of represents with Johnny. But Johnny does still have his some of his last moments of learning, really becoming a fully refined person. Anyway, just 1 second, just taking this quick finish of this drink. Oh, there you go, finished it. But yeah, I'm just really happy for all of these characters going in the final spot. Just like really finding like purpose in life, and it's all thanks to a sport, and it's all thanks to Johnny, and bringing Cobra Kai back. Like, granted, a whole heap has happened, but it looks like it's been worth it despite everything that's happened. Yeah, I think I feel like there could be like any there could be like a lot of moments in people's lives where they had this one thing and then it kind of went off, and then when trying to bring it back, there is always going to be troubles along the way, but you do get it back eventually. If anything, my novels are a bit like that, where I tried to do other things, but then now I'm going back into them. I'm just hoping that they go somewhere, because if my head is like constantly thinking of like stories and being so invested in my own fictional characters, then that has to mean something, and I'm not going to let go of that. I'm definitely going to continue, because yeah, sorry, just want to get it, like, I think the best way to summarize it is that it just goes back to just figuring out who I am almost, because a lot of my routine has been very samey, but if I do get like a kind of success I like, then I think I will start finding myself more. And I feel like this show kind of helped me, yeah, a bit, yeah, when looking back on every media that's helped me out. Um, yeah, it's just extremely appealing. Um, so yeah, I've told you about all sorts of updates. So yeah, so yeah, we'll start right there. And also, was this final episode like the highest rank episode? It might be because I just can't spot any problems. Like we just talked about top notch emotion and that. Because a lot of TV shows like don't have like a perfect ending. Although if having to have a think which shows have a perfect ending, like the In-Betweeners had a very good last episode. Well, the films is a whole other story, but like it's like a decent last episode, but it didn't really have that kind of finality. It did a bit where it was just the four of them trying to be independent and Simon nearly leaving. I don't know why he didn't leave at the end, but I guess there was that little bit of a climax there. And the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, that was trying to round up all sorts of character stories, but then will eventually finds his footing. And yeah, that has like some really nice last moments. And Friends, though those last moments I think were quite nice, despite I think some people had some problems with the ending of Friends, such as Jerry and Rachel, being a thing just to make some of the last parts like last a bit longer. So I remember some people not being too keen on that. But I wasn't like the most knowledgeable of it, despite watching the whole lot. So um, yeah, I don't know what quite to say with that one. What other show endings have I seen? I guess when Water Road ended at one point. It hasn't ended now, but back then, it did kind of just focus on its own little story, and then had like its own moment of like looking back with like character quotes. Yeah, that was like an extremely brief ending, but yeah. Oh my gosh, does that mean looking back, Cobra Kai probably has my favorite show ending? What else have I seen? I haven't watched the last episode of ITV's Vera yet. That could be a very interesting ending because I really like that show. Um, so yeah, probably top notch. Yeah, it just feels like the showrunners because season six definitely had its pros with the whole Sakatakai thing, but with these last five episodes, they were like, this is definitely the point where we start going full circle. And whilst I probably would have, I think I and others would have liked like more of that kind of focus and payoff like throughout the whole show, to make it a bit more consistent. But I feel like with the emotion and the finality, I think it just helps not only appreciate the last five episodes as its own little thing, but then it just helps you appreciate the show more. Because they get a bit wobbly and over the top at times, but it's been constantly building. And yeah, and it just feels like a result in sorry, just like a very a rather done well um structure in the end, a metaphorical one. So yeah, I think we'll end it right there. Oh yes, I definitely will because it's bedtime now. Yeah, for me anyway. And yeah, what a way to end these commentaries. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen. Yeah, I just completed a life goal. I just remember thinking, oh, what could I do as an idea? And up into well, because when I did the season six episodes at the time, each part was like kind of like getting released. But also at this time, that's where Cobra Kai videos were starting to become more popular. So at least we have had more of a public eye in it. So depending what happens, I'll probably be releasing them around 2025. But if I've not posted them until I don't know, like later this year or maybe somewhere in the future, as like a way to be like, hey, remember that show? Then here, who knows when I'll be sharing these thoughts with all of you. And and I'll also say I know I'm not the best commentator, and the best film commentaries is where you have like all sorts of people bouncing off, and Yeah, I don't really have anyone to do that with, but I'm happy doing them, on my own. If it's like a more of a focused approach, because I'm trying to like analyze and to make the most out of what's here, because I'm not like the best with jokes, and not always like quick with them, but I feel like if I just stick to more unique, films, ones that are less under the radar, I think that's what will help me stand out. I think that's where the Core Runnings one is kind of paying off, and hopefully this might a bit as well. But at the same time, I'll probably repeat a lot of what's already been said. So I do really hope you have enjoyed this commentary as a whole, as a full package. Yeah, it has been a bit slow at times. Yes, there's been moments where I felt a bit slow, a couple of times where I probably went a bit over the top. And also, you can definitely tell with my first recording, I was just like ever so timid in that. But yeah, it's just really nice for me to do. Anyway, I think we'll start right there. Yeah, we'll just see. We know what happens with time, won't we? The show just got really deep in thought. Anyway, so yeah, I'll see you next time. So as I'm recording this, there's either more commentaries, more general videos, or I'll be releasing more books if that goes that way. So yeah, do check me out. I'm a very being an honest person, and that I don't know why do I just say that. Sorry, yeah. I'm just very easygoing, I suppose. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe me. So yeah, let's finally let you go, shall we? Yeah. Although, no, I think I've already summarised this episode well enough. We all know it's done really well, and yeah, there was a we're just like really happy for everyone, aren't we? All right, let's go. I'm going. All right, see ya.